Welcome back to Hi Guys, it's your boy BDR and I'm back with another AQ Worlds video. Now today's video is going to be a buffed Horc overview. Yes, you've heard it, we've asked for it and it finally happened. Horc got a buff, so, as of, June 6th, they made a bunch of class buffs, and one of them happened to be Horc. Now, obviously the things are still the same. How to get Horc, rep shop. You have to be rank 10 in the Horc faction in order to, buy Horc. I don't recommend buying this for 2 KACs. Just grind reputation and get some rep boosting stuff. So according to the design notes, Horc, has improved in its overall performance and mana sustain. Certain skills now deal increased damage based on Shadow Strike's DLT stacks. And also, skill orders were also switched around to accommodate for smoother class ranking and improved trait scaling. So they're saying that, obviously the main problems with Horc was that, its mana sustain damage wasn't really enough like that. The DLTs were kind of just like, ugh. So yeah, let's go over the skills. So its auto attack is now Evader Daggers. 2-second cooldown, physical, short range, one target. Damage is dealt based on your weapon damage and blood trail stacks on your target. Then we have Blood Trail. Blood Trail, which was previously known as Shadow Strike. Now it's in the second skill slot. 3 mana, 3-second cooldown, physical, short range that deals damage to one target. Your pet leaves a blood trail, a DLT that stacks to 4 and reduces your target's crit chance by 10% last 10 seconds. And then we have our rank 2 skill, which is Take Cover, which was previously known as Smell Fear. They now put it in the third skill slot, 8-second cooldown, long range, one target. Applies Take Cover, increasing your damage, increasing your dodge and crit chance by 25% for 20 seconds, while also restoring 45 mana. Removes blood trail stacks from your target. And then we have, our rank 4 skill, Whistle, which usually used to be in the rank 1 slot. Now it's in the, the 4th skill slot. 40 mana, 8-second cooldown, a short range status skill that applies to yourself. Calls a pet to your side or sends it into a rage, increasing your outgoing damage by 50%, but reducing your damage resistance by 15% for 12 seconds. Previously, it used to be 45 mana cost, and the outgoing damage was reduced from 75% to 50. And the damage resistance was reduced to, 40 to 15%, the damage resistance on Whistle. Your rank 4 skills, Master Tracker, previously known as Night Hunter. Now, hit chance and crit chance increased by 10%. And no sudden movements, dodge increased by 10%, which was previously known as Shadow Wise. Your rank 5 skill, Hunter's Call, damage was changed to physical, 20 mana, 6-second cooldown, long range, one target. Deals increased damage for each stack of blood trail your target has while applying Hunter's Call, increasing your haste by 30% for 12 seconds. Can't miss. It no longer increases the target's haste, now deals damage based on blood trail stacks. And finally, for the rank 10 passive, which was previously known as Smell Blood, blood trail has a small chance to locate your target's weak spot, increasing your crit chance by 100% for 10 seconds. So, what we can gather from this class, from from this new buffed Horc so far, is that it is basically, it has a way of restoring mana. It has a way to dodge. It can also stack DLTs as well. So yeah, guys, let's move on to combos and enhancement. Alright, people, so here's the build for, Horc. I swapped out, Elysium for Ravenous or Ravenous, comment section. How do you pronounce, the enhancement? Because I kind of wanted to go for more, attack power, since everything is now just, purely physical. you know, Elysium is nice, but now we have a way to restore mana. Plus we have Vim here for less mana consumption. So I had to just take out, Elysium, put Ravenous. Lucky crits, Vainglory. We're not going to be doing any healing at all. And Vim for, that less mana consumption. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the build. Now then, for your combo, what you want to do here is 4, 3, and then you spam 2 4 times, and then you press 5, and then you repeat the combo. Now, the thing about, Horc Evader is that, as you can see right here with the third skill, we are, we are getting, 45 mana back, which used to be, the biggest issue about Horc Evader was that, its dodge was that, it basically had no way of getting mana. That's why, like, people, went to, like, Elysium, and before that, Mana Vamp and whatnot. So, yeah, pretty much it. So, in terms of damage, I mean, even though the buff did happen, usually with all these, class buffs, they usually, reduce the damage to prevent, I guess overpowered classes, I guess. In fact, they could have just kept the damage that they had before instead of just, reducing it and whatnot, but it is what it is. As you can see right here, barely getting hit. Right now, oh, whistle. The dog whistle has to come back. Hunter's Call. And then we just, get on that shadow. Get on that blood trail, which, can stack as well. Well, we're going to enrage again. If you do hear a basketball in the background, people are playing basketball outside. So, yeah. So overall, this is just the damage, damage is, it's alright for, like, a mid-game class, but, its bread and butter is, its dodge. Overall, I like the fact that it now has a way of mana sustain without, truly relying on or purely relying on enhancements that much. And now then we're towards the end of the fight. Now then our damage is really going to be kind of like looking good. As you can see, DLTs are stacking. And bam, a 15k right there. So 2 minutes 26. Look at the damage that we took, only 420. 420 Blaze Man. Elemental Hero Blaze Man. Alright, yeah, so in terms of soloing, while it can solo, you're just going to be taking, like, a longer time than, like, using other classes, kind of like, Void High Lord, Chaos Avenger, etc. It can solo, but you're going to be taking about, like, 2 to 4 minutes to solo, while there are classes out there that can, like, do more than that with less time. Well, overall, good soloer. Alright then, let's move on to farming. Alright guys, so in terms of farming, yeah, this class is not a farmer. Short range, yeah, don't use this class for farming. Alright then, let's move on to survivability. Alright people, so in terms of survivability, while it does have, a great way of dodging now, with the whole, with the third skill now increasing our dodge, we do want to, look out in some situations where, it still can get, 1 shot, 2 shot. Not now, so yeah. It does have, good survivability based on doing so far, so it's a great thing that they've, added a way to make sure it has dodge skill, even though we do miss out on the DLT right kick, but we're doing, just fine. Right here, it's just showing that, yeah, it does have, good survivability, but, said that wasn't, the problem with Horc Evader. Well, the problem was the mana, so now it has a way, now it has like an option of like good mana sustain, especially when you pair it up with Vim, which reduces, the mana cost. This right here. So yeah, we're just gonna keep on, attacking and attacking. Right now, how do you guys feel about these, these changes to Horc Evader? Also drop that in the comment section. Right here, I guess they should just, like, they shouldn't have, reduced the damage on the class. They should have just kept it how it was before, because, the DPS is still pretty bad, I would say. I mean, the DOTs do help out, but rather they just, increase its damage while also giving it the mana, the mana stuff right there. Maybe maybe they feared that Horc Evader was gonna be overpowered. Who knows? So yeah, and you run into moments like that. It happens. Lagged a bit there. So yeah, guys, in terms of survivability, it has, it does have good survivability, but you will run into moments like that where like even, some of the toughest bosses can like bypass the dodge. Alright then, let's move on to support and then final thought. Alright people, so in terms of support, I mean, Horc Evader can give you a DLT. So yeah, that's pretty much all that Horc Evader can give you a DLT. Obviously there's better classes that can give you way higher DLTs than Horc Evader. So yeah, in terms of support, all it could give you is a DLT in terms of party support. Alright then. The pros about, this buffed Horc Evader is that, it has its own auto attack. It has its own way of mana sustain. And it has, stackable DLTs, and it's still a good dodge class, good dodge soloer, and it's easy to use. So that's pretty much all that I have for pros. Now then, the cons about Horc Evader is that its DPS is still too low, whatnot. Without the third skill, it basically crumbles. As soon as the third skill fades, it basically crumbles in terms of defense. And some of the toughest bosses can bypass its dodge at times, as you saw with the Warlord Icewing. So yeah, that's pretty much all that I have in terms of cons. Now then, my final verdict about buffed Horc Evader is that Horc Evader is still a good dodge class. You know, it has the capabilities to solo, even though it will take a longer time than other classes. And now it has its own way of, mana sustain. I recommend getting this class if you're a mid-game player or a class collector, because not gonna lie, this class has gotten better, and it's a good dodge option until you get Yami no Ronin. Alright then, that's pretty much been it for the buffed Horc Evader overview. Make sure to like, share, subscribe for more content. You already know, road to 400. And yeah, hi guys, out.